Okay, it's 5:32. I'd like to call the study session to order, please. And at this time, I'd like to open up the floor for public comment for items not on the agenda.
Do we have an agenda? Oh, okay, we're on the agenda. Is it up there?
And you might just want to remind people.
Charles Tripp, 419 Hastings Street, Allegan, Michigan. Hello. I just want to say a few words here. In walking around the neighborhood I live in, we came to a consensus, and I'm going to read you something. You can go to the Historical District Commission minutes of September 7th, 2021. This is basically what it says. Motion by McKinsey with support from Mr. Walker to ask City Council to direct city staff to look into disestablishing Allegan's historic districts and the Historic District Commission. Some of the residents that live in the HDC district have concerns that this may be a vote of conflict of interest to profit. McKinsey manages and runs the family's businesses that include rental homes in the HDC district. Walker's father owns Broken Arrow Salvage Company, who has been buying houses to flip or rent in the HDC district. What Arrow, we believe, may be in the process, and we know that they have brought a nice home on Cutler Street owned by Mike Morton, another voting member of the HDC Commission. Whether you are against or for the HDC district, we have grave concerns that this whole thing is a conflict of interest to profit for people that have rental homes in the HDC district to be able to fix the homes without no rules or regulations whatsoever to run down our valuations of our property. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles.
I want to go home early, so I want to talk soon. My name is Fred Jordan. I live at 403 North Cedar Street on the corner of Cedar and Monroe. That great big beautiful house I just spent $30,000 to have painted. And I would hate to see all of that effort just frittered away should that wonderful, beautiful building get dilapidated. It has on the side of it a sign that said it's the John Stein House from 1892. And that sign was put up there by the Allegan Historic District. I like that. And I would be very much in favor of you trying to fix what's wrong with the Historical District Commission without doing away with it. I served on that committee for a while and only left when Peter Savage was summarily dismissed without so much as a phone call, and I got ticked and I left. And ever since then, I've just decided I'm kind of one of those old crabby guys that should not be sitting there where you guys are and listening to people pound on them. And I appreciate the fact that you're all willing to do that. I also appreciate the fact that Rachel has been willing to put herself out in front of people for all of these many, many years on a gazillion different committees and such. And I have witnessed that often. And although I don't always agree with her, I think that Allegan's quirky characters serve us well, and she is certainly one of those. And I thank her for that. I'm not willing to cast aspersions as to her motives on doing away the historic district. Maybe they're there, but I'm not of that opinion. Don't do away with it. Fix it if it's busted. And Wouldn't it be a shame if all these beautiful buildings downtown ended up looking like the cake shop on the corner, you know, with slavered all over it, like Niles did 50 years ago when they covered all the buildings downtown with aluminum, and only found out in the last couple of decades that that was a huge mistake, and now they're spending a fortune taking all that aluminum off and restoring those old buildings. So keep the old, and it's one of those assets that Allegan has got that we ought to preserve and take care of. And the only way to do that is with legislation, and the problem with legislation is you get to mandating stuff and telling people what they gotta do, and it's a pain in the neck, and I'm so sorry it has to happen, but it does, and we need good people to do it. That's my piece, thanks.
Mayor Pro Tem, can I just say something, just so the audience knows, this is pre-session. We don't make any decisions during pre-session. It is just a chance for council to discuss things, ask questions of city staff. This agenda item that I know you all are here passionately about will be discussed again in regular session, which starts at 7 o'clock, and then going through the agenda. I don't know what agenda item it is, but just wanted to let the audience know that is the order of events.
So your comments during the public hearing at the regular session will be on the record. Not that these aren't on the record, but it's kind of a summary more so than your specific comments said. So repeat it twice, repeat it once, I guess, your choice. But we're here to listen during public comment.
Okay, so,
Now that you scared everybody away for the other session.
I'm not
but-
that scary.
But I didn't think so. Well, I'll talk now, and what the heck, go to dinner after. But Peter Savage, live on Ely Street, and I used to be on the Historic District Commission, as was mentioned, and I wasn't walked out really quite like he said, but kind of. Anyhow, I was kind of reviewing this. I spent a lot of time on the HDC and felt that I was contributing. I was trying to establish the paper trail for this decision that is has been proposed, where Ordinance 500 to eliminate Chapter 13 of the HDC ordinance. So I kind of started going back through the minutes. And I saw that in December 20th, City Manager Dye noted the staff would like to send out the City of Allegan Historic District Commission Property Owners Opinion Survey to those residents. There was discussion, and then the consensus of the commission was to not send out the survey. Now, I'm not sure what that meant, if you never did send it out or if it was sent out later. But certainly would be nice to have an opinion survey of HDC residents to base a decision on and to know exactly what they think about it. April 13th, 21, the minutes reflect that the committee reviewed the comments from the opinion survey, and there was much discussion about the need to review home and historic districts to determine their historic value. Subsequent mentions in May, the commission discussed the need to revisit each property regulated by the historic district and determine its importance. In June, general discussion regarding a visual survey of historic properties. The commission will meet with staff to finalize the review of the properties for the next couple months. In August, they reviewed staff analysis of the historic district property survey and discussed the current state of the various historic districts in the city. And the commission felt that there needed to be some tweaking of the current regulations, and directoral staff would come back with recommendations. So in August, the feeling was that it needed a little bit of tweaking. Then as we go along, in September, the commission had another discussion. And at that time, there was a concern that the city was in support of its history. There is concern that the city is not fully committed to historic preservation, and as such, several homeowners over the years have been approved Basically, it was why some are approved and some aren't. After much discussion, there was a motion by McKenzie, supported by Keno and Walker, to ask City Council to direct city staff to look into disestablishment Allegan's Historic District. So there's obviously gaps there that if you were trying to reestablish this and figure
Okay,
out
Peter,
how this was made.
Peter, excuse
Yes.
me, we do have to hold these to 3 minutes.
Okay, am
So
I over
your
3 minutes?
3 minutes are up.
Okay.
So,
No, that's okay. Well, that's basically what I wanted to say. I think there's a correct way to do that, and that's to have a study committee elected who would really determine if we should change the Historic District Committee or
okay,
whatever.
thank you,
Okay.
Peter.
Yeah, we are operating down with our mayor. She's not here this week, so Teresa's doing a great job as mayor pro tem, stepping up. So I'm helping her out, and yeah, public comment is limited to 3 minutes. That is stated on the regular council agenda, I believe at the bottom, that public comment is limited to 3 minutes. But going forward, public comment is limited to 3 minutes. I'm the timekeeper, so I am keeping that time up here.
Thank you, Tracy.
Tracy, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, come on up, Paula.
No, I mean, if the 7 o'clock meeting, will it also be three minutes? In the past, some of the 7 o'clock meetings didn't allow, this may be going back a ways.
Yeah.
Didn't allow public comment, it used to have to be in the pre-session.
Oh, no, nope, we have public comment in the regular session, and then we also, because this would be like, requires a public hearing, this public comment for this subject is called out separately from just general public comment. So, yep,
So people can comment now, but also.
yeah, at the regular.
At 7, or other people can at the 7.
You can comment now, and you can comment in the regular session as well.
So, okay. Oh, this lady, okay.
I'm Linda Coppy. I live at 105 Depot Hill Court. I do not live in a historic district, and I'm a relative newcomer to Allegan, only having lived here 21 years. But one of the appeals to us when we were looking for a home was the old buildings here in town. The old homes, the old buildings downtown. We just felt like it was a very charming community. We bought an uninhabitable old house, tore it down to the studs, and rebuilt it as the Cape Cod that it was meant to be. It was owned previously by Jim O'Connell. I believe he was the noted track coach here at Allegan High School, and so we honored his memory by rebuilding that house. I would hate to see the appeal that the old buildings have be damaged or threatened by the removal of the historic district status.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Tom Richmond, and me and my wife is Joy right there. We're here to support the historic districts of Allegan and the Historic Commission. We are the former owners of the Bliss House, 409 Monroe. We restored our house in 1995 to its former self and owned it for around 8 years. Then our daughter bought it. It has since been lovingly maintained and still looks as fresh as when we restored it. We also discovered after purchasing it that it was one of the oldest houses in Allegan dating back to 1836. Our dealing with the Historic Commission was easy while trying to get the restoration correct, and the whole experience was pleasant. Our neighbors also helped us with our project. Working together with the Historic Commission and our new neighbors, we made some lasting friendships, which included our love of old houses. Joy and I also believe that the historic homes is one of Allegan's best assets. I have met visitors driving through town that immediately noticed the historic architecture, and it caused them to stop and explore the downtown. The historic village at the fairgrounds and the Old Jail Museum are also favorites of visitors. What would Allegan look like if there were no historic commission? We only have to look back in history to the 50s and 60s when many of the Allegan exteriors were updated to reflect the mid-century fashion. Wide aluminum siding, picture windows, and enclosed porches can still be seen as remnants of that time period before a historic commission. Imagine if the whole town were modernized and unrecognizable as historic. Visitors at Allegan would view it as just mediocre and not the quaint 1800s city that it is. I would like to restate that our experience with the Historic Commission as good, and the whole process was easy to comply. Just remember that once our local architecture is lost, it is gone and difficult to get back. Without the Historic Commission, Allegan will become another bland, old town.
Okay, thank you. Is there any more public comment? Okay, moving on down to our next item is a roundtable discussion amongst council members. Does anybody have anything that they want to discuss?
I do.
Oh, okay.
Parker, I had sent you and Joel an email over the weekend about public restrooms.
Yes.
I know, I'm putting you on the spot, and
No, you're
I
fine.
don't expect answer, but is it something with the holidays coming up, we can look at keeping City Hall open on Friday nights, Saturdays during the day? I know we have the public restrooms on the riverfront, but like I told you, I had talked to 3 different people, didn't know them, just was in one of the stores and at random different times that they were looking for public restrooms, and they just really, the riverfront just wasn't getting it for them to go all the way down there, so.
Yep, and that's understandable, and especially as the cold weather starts
Yeah.
as well. So, festive Fridays, which are taking place on 3 Fridays in December before Christmas, will be happening. Santa Claus will be at City Hall
Okay.
for people to come and visit. So the building will be open
Okay.
on those Fridays. So the restrooms will definitely be available. I have not had the chance to discuss your email with Joel. Obviously, he's out today and the rest of this week. So when he and I do get the chance, we'll definitely talk. But I think that's something that can very
Yeah.
easily be done, is to be able to have this space open and directional signs pointed toward the riverfront.
Yeah, especially directional signs. And then,
Certainly.
if on Saturday, it doesn't, just daylight hours would be nice.
Yep.
Yep, okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Good idea. Yeah. Good. Rachel, you have anything? Nope, okay. Dave? Anything you want to discuss?
For this discussion, no. I mean, I think last meeting I'd mentioned the idea of having a plan moving forward for the HDC, and I'd made some proposals. So I guess my recommendation would be to pause on tonight's decision until we see what those proposals will look like. So we'll be able to discuss that later at the regular meeting. But yeah, still feel the same way.
Peter, do you have anything open to our roundtable you'd like to discuss?
Not on the roundtable, just agenda item.
Okay. No, I don't have anything either. So let's move on down to discussion regarding the elimination of the historic district, the Allegan Historic District. So I guess we'll just start, see what you guys are feeling. Just amongst us, what kind of discussion we want to have.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Dave.
so, like I mentioned last time, I think there's a real need for reform for the historic districts. I've mentioned before my experience of going and talking to folks in my neighborhood in the Marshall Street District, and encountering several homeowners who had chosen not to make repairs to their home after they were rejected, or they thought they would be rejected, or they found out that it was too costly, and then homeowners who were moving out as a result of that. And we've been seeing the impact on that neighborhood over the years. And even most recently, issues with homeowners giving up and new homeowners coming in with houses that were not maintained and then acting according to those standards. And I definitely support reform. I think at this point, I would feel comfortable with the idea of removing the preservation standards as they stand today. I think the reality is that many of our homes in Allegan aren't meeting those preservation standards today. And I think that's okay. I think there are a number of homes that present well in the community that don't actually meet the preservation standards, i.e. using modern materials or even having expansions made to their home that alter the original character of that home. I do think there's a lot of value in keeping the organization in place, the Historic District Commission. I think they can serve as our committee to explore what happens next. And I think there's opportunity to promote Allegan better as a historic city and with historic assets. I do think there are ways to help support homeowners, especially those who have put in the effort to preserve their homes. So I'd like to see us keep that organization in place and give them a fresh purpose. I'd also like to make sure that we've got a clear demolition ordinance and a restriction from moving structures within the historic districts. And I think that exists within our ordinance already, and we can keep that in place. I think we just need to look at that as an option and see a draft revision of the ordinance with those parameters, and then make the decision weighing those two options against one another. So I'll be supporting delaying the decision tonight until we see those options.
Yeah, go ahead, Peter, or Roger.
So I agree with Dave. My concern, and I voiced this our last meeting, is that I don't want us to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And I appreciate everyone speaking up tonight because honestly, as I've gone out and talked to people in the HDC, to a person, every one of them said we should get rid of it. So I appreciate hearing your voices because I have not heard that in my own research. But to me, it speaks volumes, and we have to keep this in the discussion, that the HDC voted unanimously to disband this. So there's obviously there's not the heart in the HDC. There's not enough energy, it sounds like, left in the HDC, the current HDC members, to do the work that needs to be done. And so, as we have all of you good folks standing up and saying we need to keep this, we're going to need you to step up if we can get this done, and council votes to revamp things. You who care about this so much are going to be the ones that need to step up and do it and do that work, because we can't just say, yeah, something needs to be done and then not be willing to do something. So as you sit there and ponder your next couple of years, I hope that and pray that you're willing to step up and do some of that hard work.
Peter. Oh, Peter, go ahead.
Yeah, I wasn't here for the previous meeting because I was sick, so I'm catching up on some of this. I have torn on it that property rights is something important to me, that people can do with their property what they want. By having this, we're saying only certain parts of the city can do what they want. The other people have to follow these additional rules without any real incentives, not a lot of incentives. There's not just like a simple tax credit we give them every year to do this. The second part was looking at the state law on the establishment of it, and this is where I'm getting a little confused, is it's saying under 399.214 that we're supposed to establish a committee to look at this in order to remove the districts. And I'm fine with establishing that committee to review the districts because I think some of our districts are too large. They have properties in them that are really not historic. The Marshall District, there's only, I think, like 7 properties in there that are marked as historically significant, or also had a person or event at them that was historically significant. There's a few districts that have many properties that are marked as historically significant. So I'm for, setting up a committee to go and review this and see which districts need to be shrunk, eliminate it in their entirety, and which districts should remain. Because that's kind of how the state legislature established it under, what is it, the PA 169? And then they establish in that act how to eliminate or modify, and we should just follow that procedure and establish a committee to do that. And review it, because there's plenty of properties out there that are not historically significant, that are in the district. I think some of our districts were definitely wide netted, and it's caused some issues with some of those properties not wanting to really go to the district because they're afraid that they're gonna require them to go back to wood siding, and that we don't allow for alternatives like cement board siding that looks the same as wood siding but has a much longer life. To paint a structure currently properly is very expensive if it's a wood structure. To really get a good paint job, that's gonna last 20 years. If you just want to slap on some paint, it'll start peeling again in 5 or 10 years and start looking bad again. And we know that the modern materials that are available for wood clap siding are not the same as those that were originally available. This was part of the training, I think, at the Historic District one time. They talked about the woods back then, the pines were much denser and they would last longer. So now if you go and replace that siding, it is definitely not gonna hold up the same. So we should be open to alternative materials in the districts that we wanna keep. But there's definitely properties in the districts that I look through and I go, why is this property in the district? And I think we should just establish a committee to go and review that, go take photos of all the properties and review them. We already had the survey from '84 that they can work off of properties. We already noted which ones were significant, and it's not hard to just go through, because maybe some of those properties were torn down or burned down, and we really should also just update it to say the new property that's there is not significant at all. So that's my thoughts on it.
So, Peter, you just brought up, the research you did on the state. So one thing that I always go back to is we're not removing any of this from the National Registry. It is still on the National Registry. The commission is required for state, and the commission has to rule based on state preservation guidelines. So that's something that it's not negotiable with the state on. So it's like, I really just think we continue to get away from looking at the facts and maybe leading with our heart or emotions, and we need to kind of step back and go, okay, what is it we're looking at? Again, what is there? There's several specific addresses that are on the National Registry now. Those are not going away. There is like the downtown Allegan Historic District, the Griswold Civic Center District, Marshall Street Historic District, Oakwood Cemetery Chapel, and Pritchard's Outlook Historic District. Those stay in the National Registry, whatever the decision is with the commission. So I just wanted to make sure that people understood that. Now I lost my train of thought, but I'm sure it'll come back to me later. We have a whole nother meeting to talk about this, and so, Rachel, do you have something?
Well, to add to what you're saying, it's my understanding, and I'm going to go with it's my understanding. I don't think, in reading the state law, Public Act 169, to maintain your districts and your commission, you have to keep your preservation standards. If you remove the preservation standards, you don't have your districts, you don't have your commission. There's really no point in having a commission or districts if there's no preservation standards. The notion that you can keep the districts and the commission, but remove the actual rules to preserving history or the exterior of historical buildings and sites to glean money, grant money, is a misnomer. It's not going to happen. You have to have all of these things in place to receive those things. So it is either keep it or remove it. Right? So the notion that this has been my wild idea in the 12 years that I've been on council I made this motion in September of 2021. So clearly, it's not really my baby here, right? So I've received a call from Councilmember Redding regarding a property on Marshall Street. I don't remember the address, do you?
403 Marshall.
403 Marshall Street, right? So it's a place that, I don't know, vinyl siding, the garage doors you've mentioned were collapsing, whatever. They started work. They didn't get approval through the HDC. They received a stop work permit or cease whatever from staff, which are the rules within the HDC, right? You have to get a COA to do anything. This irritated council members.
Can I frame that? a
Not
little?
yet.
Okay.
All right? So Dave reached out to me, Councilmember Redding reached out to me on how this shouldn't happen. We shouldn't hamper or hinder people's abilities to make improvements to their properties, right? I agree. Dave and I agree on this 100%. So to me, the only way that that is going to change is if we repeal the ordinance, and we've said this, Dave and I have discussed this, and recreate something. That is my position on this. Councilmember Perigo, I call them Perigo by last names. Anyhow, I said this at the last meeting. I am great with a group of passionate people getting together, recreating this, doing what needs to be done to make it less antiquated so it works for everybody in the community. And also can, I guess, keep what it is that you think is going to disappear if the commission and the districts are gone. History isn't going to disappear if you don't have a historical district. The houses have history. Could the house disappear? Sure. We need some sort of demolition ordinance or raising or whatever that is. That needs to be discussed as well. But overall, if you want to spend $30,000 to paint your house, you'll still be able to do it, whether there's a district or not. If you want to put siding on it, vinyl, hey, you'll be able to do it, like 2/3 of the rest of the population. That's what I'm about. Repeal it, start it over so it benefits the whole community, all of the property owners. I have always said this, fair and equitable treatment of everyone. That's what I'm about.
I have one more thing to say. This just popped in my head. In my research, just talking about my research, I always loved Marshall, Michigan. So my husband and I have spent a lot of time over there walking around. I love the historical homes. So when we started this discussion, I served on HDC my first year on council, then Dave did, now Rachel is. So all three of us have had conversations about the commission and how it's just not working. What do we need to do for the residents? So this is, I'm not going to use your famous term, but yeah, it's equal for everybody. But anyhow, back to Marshall, Michigan, I asked Joel, I'm like, hey, what do you know about Marshall? Well, come to find out through research, Marshall, Michigan, who advertises on 94 as Visit Historic Marshall, they don't have a historic district commission. They are just on the National Registry. And it is a prideful thing and this is from the city manager of Marshall, he said, it's a pride thing. And the neighbors show that pride, talk to their neighbors, and help each other of how to preserve their homes. They're not directed by the city of how to preserve their home. So that's just something I just wanted to share to people about what that community does.
Thank you. Yeah. And I think part of the misunderstanding here is that we're not looking to get rid of all our historic homes or what we're trying to do here is stop this decision from being made by 7 to 9 people who rarely have a quorum to even make these decisions. So going back to what Roger said, we need more volunteers or we need somebody to make this commission happen because it is apparent that all these people on our HDC commission right now don't want to be a part of it anymore.
Just let me, can I?
Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
So I want to share what Councilmember McKenzie and I discussed for 403 Marshall Street. And I'll start by sharing that I've been a strong proponent on council of reforming the historic district for a while now. When I was running for council and I was getting signatures in my neighborhood, again, That was one of the top issues I ran into from homeowners who were frustrated, who were ready to move out. Good homeowners, people who really cared about their home, couldn't make the investment that they needed to or wanted to the way they wanted to. And that's a real problem for my neighborhood and my neighbors. And I have to be able to go look them in the eye and tell them that I did something about that. So for me, this is very important. It has a real impact today. 403 Marshall Street, it's a little one-story white house. It's by 5th Street, 4th Street. You may have noticed it driving by. It had a suit of armor on the porch for a period of time.
Dave,
So-
I think if you said it was the porch that always had a bunch of plants.
Yeah.
Just covered in plants.
Yup, it had
Every year.
some organic vegetation going on there, yeah. That house was melting into the ground. I watched it for years because I walked downtown regularly. So I would pass by it and I would see, oh, the window's broken. Oh, the garage door is falling apart. Oh, there's a tarp on the roof. And then one day, the suit of armor was gone and all the plants were gone. And there was a dumpster out front and all the junk got moved out of there. And then I started to see windows get replaced. The tarp on the roof was gone. The garage door is fixed. And I thought, oh, that's really great, but I didn't see them come before the HDC. So I went and I talked to city staff and I said, hey, what's the story here? And they said, oh, we sent them a cease and desist letter. And I said, oh no, you needed to send them a thank you letter. Those are homeowners who were repairing a home that was falling apart in our neighborhood. That was bringing property values down. I think folks in this community are rightly concerned about blight. The Historic District Commission doesn't address blight. If you let your house melt into the ground, if you don't repaint it, the Historic District can't do anything about that. So, coming back to 403 Marshall and the issue of, like Rachel said, there's a rule on the books. City staff tries to follow the rules and enforce these ordinances. This is a clear case of that ordinance wasn't adding value. It wasn't serving anyone to send them a cease and desist letter. My personal reaction was, oh my gosh, now these windows, they aren't sealed all the way yet. They probably got some contractor who got this cease and desist letter, said, I'm done, and now they're not going to get a contractor. You all probably know how hard it is to get contractors right now. They might not get a contractor again until next year, so then it spends all winter exposed to the elements. That's not a good situation. Luckily, I met the homeowner there. He gave me the whole story. He more or less wasn't concerned about the cease and desist letter. The neighbor that he had also replaced some doors and vinyl windows, and he just ignored the HDC as well. That's also a pretty common practice in Marshall Street neighborhood. I know that's not great. I know that it would have been great to be enforcing these things all along, but it just is what it is. So I'm left now in a situation where I'm looking at these houses, I'm talking to these people who are homeowners. They need some help. They need to be able to make the improvements that they need to on their home in a way that they can afford, and in a way that's, let's call it environmentally friendly, that's efficient for them. And this is a big deal for those homeowners. So in my mind, the easy answer here is we've got these ordinances, we've got this ordinance putting these restrictions in place that we don't care to enforce. Now, I'd like to address a couple things that were mentioned. One, I don't have any illusions that we're going to be able to get grant money back without having some sort of preservation standard in place. I don't care if the state considers that a valid HDC or not. That's all fine. What I'm really looking at is, what do we get out of removing the whole ordinance versus just removing those preservation standards? And I'm seeing an option A, there's not a lot we have left. In fact, we don't have any way to engage with the community if we just remove the whole ordinance. Then everything's gone. With option B, we would keep in place a demolition ordinance. We would keep in place a group that's willing to enforce that demolition ordinance or approve these if they were to come forward. And I've talked to members of the HDC, and I feel I've got enough folks who are either currently members or who would be willing to join that we can staff that. We can fill that group. In fact, one of them is here tonight, and I'm hoping another one comes. But I'm willing to be the council representative to that group and help figure out what comes next. But I'd like to have a group in place to do that with, rather than trying to form a new one, because that's a heavy lift. It's a heavy lift to do that without any sort of infrastructure in place. There's also a portion of that ordinance that really allows us to receive funds or make investments in historic homes. Like that group could technically buy a historic home. I don't know if folks realize that's part of that ordinance. I don't think it would come to that. But I also don't know what that next step looks like. And that's why I'd really like to keep an HDC in place, even if it doesn't get state support, even if folks don't recognize it. I think it's worth keeping it there so that we can continue that conversation and define what comes next. I do think there's a real need, and I've shared my perspective on that already. There is definitely a need for reform, and again, I've been a strong proponent of that the whole time I've been on council, and I really appreciate council members Perigo and McKenzie and the work they've done on this so far. I believe there's a good path forward here, and I know it's not going to make everybody happy. In fact, the path I'm proposing may be the thing that makes the most people unhappy, but that's okay, because again, I think it's the right thing to do, and I think we've got enough people in the community who are willing to help me with that. I'd like a chance to do that. Just give me a year to figure out what that looks like. That's it.
Anybody else have anything else on council? Staff, do you have anything to add?
Sure. We've got a couple more slides that kind of address some frequently asked questions, some questions that were asked earlier, some things that were addressed by the council as well. And I also want to point out too, I heard mention of a couple times, Public Act 169, and I just wanted to clarify for everybody in the room. In addition to Public Act 169, a city can simply eliminate Chapter 13, which is what we're discussing at our 7 o'clock meeting, in order to eliminate a historic district. That process was supported by the city attorney as well as SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Office. So that what we're doing tonight is also just as fine as addressing Public Act 169. So as you can see on the board, or on the screens rather, City Council established the HDC, the Historic District Commission, and the Allegan Historic Districts in 1985. That includes 7 historic districts, 8 historic sites, which total approximately 420 properties. So this was addressed, like I said, some of these were noted on, but I want to go into detail a little bit more. If we repeal Chapter 13, historic preservation, will we lose historic districts? The short answer is no. By removing Chapter 13 from the city's Code of Ordinances, we will not remove the historic districts listed in the National Register. Individual properties and properties listed as contributing properties in the districts will be eligible for federal historic tax credits and state historic tax credits. That quote there at the bottom is from Alan Higgins from SHPO, taken from an email between he and City Manager Dye. Can we loosen or remove the reservation standards yes. What did I say? Preservation, yeah, I read it right, but that didn't sound right. Preservation standards to allow modern materials and keep local districts intact so we can continue to receive grants through the Certified Local Grant Program. Again, a quote from Alan, direct from an email between he and Joel where this question was asked. No, is the short answer there. If preservation standards are removed, the city would lose its certified local government status and would not qualify for grants through that CGL program.
I do want to clarify something there. We're talking about losing grants through the CLG program. For those who aren't familiar with that, that's basically the idea is that we're a certified local government that's enforcing preservation standards. I don't think we're that today. I don't see us going out and remediating changes that are made. I see us often approving new materials outside of preservation standards. I think we're out of integrity already in regards to CLG. I think this is a double-sided question here in that it's tying removal of preservation standards to CLG. Like I said earlier, I don't anticipate us qualifying for grants once we remove preservation standards. And that's okay. I don't care that Public Act 169 of 1970 doesn't see our HDC as compliant anymore if we were to remove those preservation standards. So I want to separate those two questions. It's not about being CLG qualified in my mind. It's about doing the right thing for the community, which I think the right thing is removing these preservation standards. I don't know why, once we've done that, I don't know why we can't maintain a historic district commission with a demolition ordinance. So you don't have to answer that tonight. But it's one of the
Or
reasons
Dave, Planning Commission could also have that demolition, just something else to think about.
Yep.
Somewhere, as long as it's somewhere, a demolition ordinance is somewhere, it could go to planning as well.
And like I said last meeting, that's fine if that's another option, but I need to see that in this proposal. I don't want to remove it until we know what's coming next and we haven't laid that detailed plan out.
Yeah, and to be honest, that's where Dave and I differ, because I'm like, to move forward, to keep it in place, I don't know what they're preserving anymore if we don't have any preservation. Just be transparent with everybody about our conversations that we've had of, something's gotta give.
Yeah, so again, what I want to keep in place is just a group that can discuss these things and then the demolition ordinance. And to me, it seems easier to keep what we've got today than just build something new. But again, I just wanted to address that as when it says, no, this is not possible, it's talking about CLG grant compliance. And that's different than can we do what we want to do with our ordinance.
Right. Okay. Sorry, Parker.
No problem. Next, can the city develop a new ordinance to regulate demolition or significant alterations of the building footprint? Yes, the city can simply develop ordinances that protect the safety, health, and general welfare of the community. Historically preserving significant structures can be described as protecting the general welfare of the community. So any such ordinance would differ from Public Act 169, which states that a permit shall be obtained before any work affecting the exterior appearance of the resource is performed within a historic district. If the community would like to go this route, the repeal of Chapter 13 still needs to occur, and a new ordinance can then be developed after its elimination.
That's what I think.
And those were our questions. That's all right.
We're very passionate.
That's okay. Just a refresher.
Sorry, Parker, left you out there.
We're fine, no need to
Okay.
apologize.
Well, All right, any further discussion amongst council for this?
I just think it's clear that we need more discussion on this, and there's just too much happening for us to try to make any firm decisions tonight. So, yeah, we need more time.
So we'll take care of that
So
in
we'll
the
take care of that
meeting.
in the meeting, yeah.
Yep, okay. Great. Anything else, Rachel? Okay. Staff, do you have anything else, Parker, Teresa, any of you that we need to discuss at roundtable?
I have nothing else. I just want to make a point now, before we get to our 7 o'clock meeting, that any motion made tonight on this decision has to be in the affirmative. I just want to remind council of that. So no matter how that public hearing starts, the motion has to be made in the affirmative. So just keep that in mind when that happens. And then
Why is that?
that's just in accordance to Robert's rules. So at that point, then the council will then discuss and then vote the way they choose.
What that basically means is that we have to make a motion to do something. We can't make a motion that says you can't do something. We couldn't
Correct.
say you
Yes, thank
can't
you.
do that, but we have to give
Just to
affirmative
start
direction. Yep.
that, yep. Thank you.
I do actually have
Okay, sure,
just a
go ahead, Rachel.
request, I suppose. Do we have a slide of council's goals for 2020? Is that it? Are those current?
Yes, right there on the wall is
Hello,
current. So
sorry.
I don't have a slide, but it's on the wall, so.
Okay, all right.
Next best thing.
So improve levels of compliance to city ordinances. I'm trying. Review and codify ordinances. I gotcha.
Yep.
Anybody else?
only one thing. The historic preservation does have teeth, but it's a matter of if we want to be using those teeth. We can go in and force compliance, force them to do the work or have the work done, add it to their tax bill, but that's not really like how I like to govern personally. I don't like being at the quote-unquote proverbial point of a gun saying, you will do what we say. It's just not my cup of tea to use such hard measures. But yeah, there is that provision that we can get a court order. We can also do the work and add it onto their tax bill. But is that what we want for the historic district?
But some of the bottom line here too, I think, is that it hasn't been fair and equitable, Rachel, across the board for everyone, has been our problem with the Historic Commission.
The rules of the district are a little confusing, and depending on who's on the board, the high, medium, low priorities and things like that gets very confusing in that board, because there's many properties that are really low priority, and almost all of them are medium priority. There's only a few that are high priority for preservation, and we're supposed to actually apply the standards actually a little different depending on what priority of preservation, and then there's a difference between preservation and restoration as well. And a lot of times we view it as, we're gonna force this restoration when they had vinyl siding and they take it off and we go, you have wood siding underneath. We were gonna force you to do a preservation rather than just replace with the alternative material that was already present. And half the time it was already present before the district was even established.
Correct.
So-
Yep.
In just the short time I've been on council, I've heard many stories about people who have been able to do something that other people haven't been able to do, and that have ruined the historic look of the house just because of who they are.
Yeah.
So
But
I think that is part of the problem with the Historic
Yeah,
Commission.
the ones I run into a lot are the ones that have already alternative siding or alternative windows that were put in before the district establishment. And now they're afraid if they take that siding off, that if we see there's wood siding under there, we'll force them to preserve it.
Yeah, when I was on HDC, we had a situation like that, and the commission at that time told the homeowner, if you take the siding off and there is wood underneath, you have to preserve that wood. You can't put the vinyl siding on that you want to.
Which is kind of interesting, because if that siding was put on before 1972, technically it
Right.
falls under the 50-year rule,
Yep.
which would make it
But it
historic.
kind of goes back to what you said too, like who's on the commission and preserving versus.
Or restoration.
Yep,
There's a big difference. It's when you have a house that's already preserved, or if you want to take it on as a restoration project, that's your personal choice. But when it then becomes the district says, you had already existing aluminum siding and we saw you took it off, and we feel that you should restore
Yeah,
the wood siding, even though you didn't have that, that it was, when it was established, that's what the siding was and when the district was established. And if it's pre-1972, technically it's historic. It's just a matter of what do you go back to, when the first board of the house was laid down, or what remodel phase? Because,
yeah, it kind of too, Peter, you're, going to court and, going that whole route, it costs money.
does cost the city a lot of
And,
money.
I think everybody up here knows the city does not have the money to go after that type of thing.
And it
So
is- I-
what are we fighting for here?
I prefer going after blight and other things, but when it's in the historic district, if the house is blighted, it's, what's the repair cost gonna be to fix that if it had wood siding and the wood siding's rotting? Where, there's a lot of moving parts, and like you said, fair and equitable is one of the things to say that, how is this fair when you're in one district, and you got a totally different set of rules than the rest of the city?
Or does the Historic Commission make it even bigger? We talked about that as well. Anything that is 50 years, older at this point could be deemed a historic structure.
Roger.
So the act you're referencing from my reading states that members of the commission or our agents can enter a property and make the repairs. So
Yep.
that means those folks that are volunteers, who might have an ounce of quality in terms of historic preservation or repairs or anything, through this act can, if deemed through neglect, go and make these repairs on properties.
Our agents can also be contractors and.
Through the city, yes. That said, I think of the Mill District when I think of historic preservation and these districts, and when they were created, what they were created for, and how well they're doing. Okay? So the property, I don't know the address, so we'll say the Baker Studios, right, or the old Baker Furniture. Based on my research, that was purchased for $40,000 in the early 2000s. The buildings across and next to it have been falling into the ground since the early 90s. When these districts were created, what are we preserving? They were able to buy that building for almost 7,000 square feet for $40,000. Make all the improvements, make it beautiful, make it wonderful. People are now going to the Mill District, that's awesome, right? But they were able to do what they did because the districts, the preservation, the HDCs, whoever were involved at that time, it wasn't working. Where's Schuler's Coal right now? Where's that building? For anybody who remembers Schuler's Coal. I remember it. I came here in '87. Why? Isn't that a historic building? I know where it is. It's been torn down. Where's the buildings on Brady Street that I believe your dad or you or somebody owned at one time? The old Goodwill next to Mahan. Where are those? I remember them. They're gone. Trowbridge. Trowbridge and Cedar. Where's that nice little white house? It's a community garden now. It's a historic district. It was torn down because it wasn't maintained. That was just a couple years ago. The house on the corner here, it may have not been a district. I don't know, that we want to make a roundabout or we tore down, the city bought to tear down.
Is that a district?
I can't imagine why that wasn't in a district, but yeah, $70,000 to tear it down, and now we have a park bench and a sign. I think we need to check our standards here as to what we're actually trying to do. And I'll say this now, last meeting, obviously, what happens, happens. It's no sweat off my back. I mean, I know there seems to be this notion that somehow this is some benefit to me. I think when the majority, I won't say a majority, let me rephrase that. I think when a third of your community is under a historic district, that's not just a benefit to me or to someone else that owns property, and I don't own property in the district. That's benefiting a third of your community, and that needs to be considered.
Okay. If nobody else has anything, we'll review, our next item is the review of the council agenda for the regular meeting. Did you receive any changes or anything to that?
No, we did not receive any changes.
Okay, so that's good. With nothing else, then, we will adjourn the study session at 6:30 and resume the regular meeting at 7 p.m. Okay, it's 7 o'clock. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. And Michaela, if we could get a roll call, please.
Sure. Councilmember Redding.
Here.
Councilmember Hands.
Present.
Councilmember Byrd.
Here.
Councilmember Perigo.
Present.
Councilmember McKenzie.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Galloway.
Here.
Mayor Andrus.
I'll
We
make-
would need a motion to excuse Mayor Andrus from the meeting, please.
I will make that motion.
Support.
It has been moved and supported to excuse Delora from the meeting. Stop. If I could have everyone please stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so was I. Okay, hold on.
Moved and supported.
We have a motion on the floor for, to excuse Mayor Andrus. All in favor, please support by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, now we can stand and say the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, our first agenda item is the approval of the regular council meeting agenda for October 25th, 2021. I could get a motion, please.
So moved.
Support.
All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for the study session for October 12th, 2021. Could I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed,
Abstain.
one abstained. The next item is the approval of the regular meeting minutes for October 12th, 2021, council meeting. Could I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to accept the regular meeting minutes for October 12th. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Abstain.
One abstention again. Okay. Next items on the agenda is public hearings and adoptions of ordinances. The first one is 8A1, the second reading and public hearing of Ordinance 498 for October 25th, 2021, regarding the changes to Chapter 29 Utilities, Article 2, Water of the City of Allegan Code of Ordinance. And Doug Swears, you're going to touch on this for us, please?
Yes, staff has worked spring and summer to update the water ordinance. Was presented to you 2 meetings ago and the pre-session, and then you had first reading last council meeting. So I guess if there's any questions from council on it.
No, appreciate the work on it.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to open the public hearing, and I do want to remind people to please step up to the podium, state your name, address, and you do have 3 minutes to state your comments. So we open the public comment at 7:04. Seeing no comment, close the public hearing at 7:04. Council, could we get Michaela, could we get a roll call, please, to vote on this? Oh, yeah.
I'll move to adopt Ordinance 498, amendments to Chapter 29, Article 2.
Support.
Thank you. Now, Michaela, could we have a roll call, please?
Okay. Councilmember Redding.
Yes.
Councilmember Hands.
Yes.
Councilmember Byrd.
Yes.
Councilmember Perigo.
Yes.
Councilmember McKenzie.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Galloway.
Yes. Okay, motion passes. Moving on down to the next item is 8A2, is a second reading and public hearing for Ordinance 499 for October 25th, 2021, regarding the changes to Chapter 29, Utilities, Article 3, Sewers and Drains of the City of Allegan Code of Ordinance. Doug?
This is similar to the water ordinance, but it covers the sewer side and includes industrial pretreatment for any industry in the city. Again, I'm here for any questions that council may have on it.
Okay. With no questions from council, I'm going to open the public hearing at 7:06. Anyone, again, please step up to the podium, say your name and address, and state your comment. You have 3 minutes. Seeing no public hearing, close the hearing at 7:06. Could I get a motion to accept?
I'll make the motion to accept Ordinance 499, Chapter 29, Utilities, Article 3, Sewers and Drains of the City of Allegan Code of Ordinance.
Support.
Okay, it has been moved and supported. Could we get a roll call, please, again, Michaela?
Sure. Councilmember Redding.
Yes.
Councilmember Hands.
Yes.
Councilmember Byrd.
Yes.
Councilmember Perigo.
Yes.
Councilmember McKenzie.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes. Okay, it has been voted and approved.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. Okay, the next item on the agenda is item 8A3. It's a second reading and public hearing for Ordinance 500 for October 25th, 2021, eliminating Chapter 13, Historic Preservation of the City of Allegan Code of Ordinances. I'm going to remind you, please step up to the podium, state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes for your comment. It's 7:08. I'm going to open the public comments, please.
We're also friendly. Sarah Remaker, 334 Marshall Street. I've lived in the Marshall Street District, Historic District, for 11 years. I respectfully disagree that the HDC doesn't have energy to continue. My husband just joined the HDC in April after we had a frustrating yet successful request to get new windows for our house. I feel, this is me talking, not the HDC member in my household, I feel that we are penalized for following the rules. It takes us longer, it costs us more money, and our neighbors who were discussed at 403 Marshall Street, across the street, 2 down, I watched them do their work quickly, seemingly under cover of night, it felt like to me after everything we'd been through, do work that was way more intrusive than what we did, and only get a letter saying to stop. That's really frustrating, and that tells me that I was duped. I shouldn't have followed the rules because doing so cost me more money. So that's why I respectfully say that not all of the HDC is ready to give up or at least not serve in some capacity going forward. I agree with Rachel's sentiments that it is not equal. It's not fair to follow the rules and basically be penalized. So Jason joined after our experience and is willing to help, but as it is, it's broken. It's up to you guys to figure out how to fix it, but as a homeowner, in my opinion, it is broken. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Alan Sopko. I live at 342 Cutler Street. I respectfully disagree with the elimination of the Historic District Commission. Again, speaking strictly for myself, there are folks in this room that know my passion for historic preservation. You know, I can take a step back and say I've been in Allegan for 3 years, and the inventory of historic homes and the state of preservation of those homes brought me to this place. I view our history as a city, as well as the history embodied in our architecture, as an asset that the city needs to find a way to exploit. I'm here to, as a resident of Allegan, I'm here to be a long-term resident and contributor to the city. Now, I am an HDC member. I don't make every meeting due to work obligations. However, I think disbanding the HDC is premature. I think that there is a lot of, not to put too fine a point on it, there is a lot of revenue to be realized from our historic assets. I believe that it will drive tourism to our community. I believe that the downtown area is on an upswing in part of it. I know that there are many like-minded individuals like myself, you know, within a tank of gas away of Allegan, who will come to Allegan to experience what the historic district provides. Now, having said that, I can say that having lived in Allegan for 3 years, I have not been the recipient of any contact from the HDC. I understand where folks are coming from who say that, you know, the rules are enforced not unilaterally. I understand that there is additional costs associated, and certain times, with maintaining a building's historic character. However, in my time on the HDC, we've approved vinyl siding, vinyl windows, you know, things that would typically be out of the scope that would ordinarily be approved in a historic district, just out of sensitivity for those cost factors while trying to maintain the integrity of a neighborhood. So, I say that the Historic District Commission absolutely, in my opinion, has a place here. Whether or not it needs to be reinvented, whether or not there needs to be community outreach, or there needs to be a position of more activism within the community to help the community understand the value that the stock of historic buildings and the history of Allegan overall brings to the community. I don't have the answers. However, I'm just speaking up as a voice who's saying that I'm willing to put in the time and the effort to continue the HDC for the sake of preserving the historic integrity of Allegan.
Thank you.
Third time's the charm. Hi, I'm Judy McCall. I live at 1 Williams Lane. It is a historic home that was owned by William B. Williams, therefore the name of the street. I definitely feel that we need to further explore the impact the historical districts can make on our community. I don't think this is a yes or no at this point because I don't feel that all the options have been fulfilled to find out what we could and should do to make this work for Allegan and make it a more user-friendly system. It may be redistricting, it may be changing different materials, but we need to explore what to do to make this work for everybody. I dare say half of the people that are in historic districts don't know what they're supposed to do to make the improvements, and don't know if they're making an error in making their improvements. People are doing the best they can. This isn't an easy time, but we need to explore methods of making this the best we can make it for everybody in Allegan and make it a huge asset. And I must say that I was on the study committee in the 80s to start it, but I was only 2. Okay, I have my letter. I had a little printer glitch, but it just expresses these opinions. If you don't mind my passing it to somebody to pass it out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Judy.
Hi there. Bob Nally, 121 River Street. So it's interesting listening to everyone. My clear-cut answer would have been, yes, I'd like to just do away with the historic, district here, in the sense that I felt like at the beginning, way too many homes were swept into there, every older home that was in there. And it created a lot of, unfortunately, I think, people not making home improvements and being able, if they want to follow the requirements, not necessarily being able to do all the things that it now govern. I bought my house 2 years before Historic District. The house across from me did vinyl siding, all this good stuff. You know, I go to get ready to do that, can't do it, you know. Things may have changed, it sounds like. So I would just say that I think that an examination, if not eliminating it, certainly looking at what is truly the historic homes here in Allegan, maybe re-inventorying those homes and making, I think, keeping that for those that want that, you know, in the town makes sense. I think there are beautiful homes here, but I think there's also a large number of other homes. I'd like to open the opportunity for them to be able to do the improvements they want to do on the house and just really preserve the integrity of those homes so that we present still, while not historic, a very good picturesque site in town. So that's my opinion. So, thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Charles Tripp for 19 Hastings Street, Allegan, Michigan. Me and my wife live in the HDC district, but we do not own a historical home, but we have always abided by the rules because we always felt that that would keep the property values up in our neighborhood. I think Reading's on the right track in saying, let's pause this, let's do some more research on it and create a committee that has a heart for the HDC and historical homes that can come up with some kind of a compromise where homes that are not historical can make the improvements they want, but still look decent and complement the homes that are historical. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jason Watts, 516 Trowbridge Street. I live in the only Second Empire house in the city of Allegan, the Meska Sutphin House. Meska, I think, owned a general store, and Sutphin was the seed king of Allegan. But let me tell you a love story. I bought my home because it was in the HTC 6 years ago. And, you know, I've slowly tried to make historically appropriate improvements to my home. There are studies, and I can certainly provide them to the council, of single-pane windows, if properly restored, are just as efficient as the double pane. And I've also seen tips and tricks that can make the cost of that comparable to many vinyl windows. But the love story is that Mr. Sutphin, the seed king, was trying to marry off his daughter, okay? His daughter found a beau in Hopewell, New Jersey. And this gentleman from Hopewell, New Jersey, moved to Allegan and lived in my house, taking up residence. And I don't know how many of you know, my wife is from Hopewell, New Jersey. And I think with me buying my house, it's completing that circle. I've had many interactions with the HDC. It took me 3 meetings to get my porch approved. I know the frustration, but I also see the value in the commission. Maybe there needs to be an audit of what properties should stay and what should go, but I still think there's value to having a pause and saying what is appropriate for our community. So I urge you not to eliminate this ordinance and come up with an appropriate solution that is appropriate for our community. I mean, 10 years ago, the Griswold was nearly packed because people were worried that the commission was going to eliminate the HDC. And it kept on going.
Okay,
But not
Jason, your
enough
3 minutes
things-
is up,
But
please.
please restore the HDC. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Cindy Reed, and I live at 257 Marshall. That's on the corner of Marshall and Bond, right by Sioux Lang Park. If you've been driving by our house the last 16 years, you will notice that it is just very slowly getting painted. And that's because we're doing it mostly ourselves because we have to. However, we're keeping the integrity of the home. We don't want to put up siding that's going to mask the windows and the architectural of the period. There is now, when we moved here, there wasn't, but now there are companies that can do that and keep the integrity of the house with the siding and no problem. I think it's important that we continue with the Historic Commission. I've been sitting on parks and transitioned into public spaces. I've been a commissioner for the last 10 years. If the Historic District needs shoring up, the commission, I'd be happy to move over there, and I know there are other people that would be willing to do that so that we can do the work and figure out what we need to do. The problem is when you eliminate something immediately, yeah, there's people right now that are crossing lines and aren't doing it. But once you eliminate it, it's gone. Once somebody's window trim or whatever aspect that's important to that architectural historical value is taken away, we can't get it back. I also understand being under pressure because people are trying to get their houses up to date. They want to do that. They may not be as patient as taking 16 years to paint their house. I think we need to take that all into consideration. I think there's a lot of houses that probably don't need to be in the Historic Commission. Maybe we need to redesign, but let's not throw away the last, 20, 30 years that we've been doing this? And I've only lived here 16 years. I haven't been here forever. But let's slow down, take a look at, let's make this work now. So many things have changed in our lives. I don't even need to list them because you all know that. And so if we want to jump ahead for the sake of progression, that's not necessarily a good idea. I'm a progressive. I want to see that happen. But let's take the time to do it right. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
Kathy Nealon, 204 Cutlass Street. We've been talking a lot about houses, but there are churches that are also in other buildings that are on this list. And if you do choose to get rid of the commission, it means that the Baptist church, the old Baptist church at Trowbridge and Maple could be taken down. If the Presbyterian church should change hands, it could also be taken down. And are you ready to change our landscape in that way? People drive through the towns and they see these beautiful homes, and I would hate to see them demolished because a new owner came in and wants to put something else on that lot. And without a commission, that's possible. So I would hope that you would take a pause on this also and really think about how this could change the landscape of the city of Allegan. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Is there any more public comment? Oh, still open for 3 minutes, Peter.
Peter Savage. I'll do less than 3. I just want to say, David, I think you're on the right track with this. The point I was trying to make before is that the documentation of the need to do away or just with the historic district statutes really isn't there on paper. I think that's it's as the state would recommend. They would recommend a study commission or study committee to view the current status of HDC and whether historic districts should be added or subtracted or whatever. So I'm not sure if that's the kind of committee you're talking about, or if you're just talking about a revitalized HDC committee actually taking that on. But in either case, I would be totally in favor of that, and I would volunteer to do it if you needed somebody to do it. So, okay.
Thank you, Peter.
Say something really fast. You guys got a long email from me, so I'm not going to restate anything from my email, but I think people here might not know a couple things that are the consequence of if the historic districts go away. I'm quoting from Allen, and you know who Allen is, the State Historic Preservation Organization. SHPO, whatever, yeah. Okay, so he says if local historic districts the consequences of eliminating them, the two big ones that I see is that currently people can get state tax credit. So if you're in an HD and you do an improvement that meets the requirements, there are state tax credits. That's a plus, right? Those go away if we don't have historic district. There's no state tax credits. They go away. Now, you can still have your house on National Register, but you will not get state tax credits, I don't believe. Or there are only something like how many on the national? 10 or how many are there? 10?
Most of the districts are on the National Registry.
No, I
There's a
mean the
couple-
individual, there's some individual houses located, that are on. But he says that state tax credit will go away. And the other thing is, I've heard reference to the CLG program, and just so people understand, Dave, you said it's okay with you if it goes away, but those funds have brought $200,000 to Allegan at the Griswold, the Regent, and the library for preservation improvements. Now, I see that as a real plus, that those are available, and I asked him if, because Allegan's already gotten $200,000, maybe we've kind of gotten our share or whatever, and he said, absolutely not. We had a discussion about an email discussion. He said every year they have so many 100,000 that they federally are mandated to give away. It has nothing to do with how many your city's already received. And I just think, why would we get rid of the district if it means, for instance, the Regent couldn't do further preservation improvements using those funds, or the Griswold? It just seems like such a plus to me. And I do agree there have to be changes made, and I'm in favor of eliminating some districts and making some smaller so that people on the edges of those who, can't comply are let go of it. And you could, by doing a careful survey and seeing which ones are less compliant and have not been compliant for a long time, there's no point in their being in it and hamstringing those owners. So anyway, I think don't throw it all away. Let's work on it. Okay.
Thank you, Paula.
Perfect timing, Paula.
Do we have any more public comments? Okay. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment at 7:30. can I get a motion from council members for the second reading of the ordinance 500?
I'd like to make a motion to table this item.
Support.
We have a motion and a support on the floor to table this item. If we could get a roll call, Michaela?
Councilmember Redding,
Yes.
Councilmember Hands,
Yes.
Councilmember Byrd,
Yes.
Councilmember Perigo,
No.
Councilmember McKenzie,
No.
or Mayor Pro Tem Galloway.
No.
Motion fails.
Motion fails.
I'll make a motion to approve the repeal of ordinance. Let me get my reading glasses on here.
500.
Or the second reading and public hearing for ordinance 500, for eliminating Chapter 13, Historic Preservation of the City of Allegan Code of Ordinances.
Support.
We have a motion and a support on the floor to accept ordinance 500. All in favor? Oh, yep, we need a roll call. I'm sorry again, Michaela.
Councilmember Redding,
No.
Councilmember Hands,
No.
Councilmember Byrd,
No.
Councilmember Perigo,
Yes.
Councilmember McKenzie,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Galloway.
Yes,
Motion fails.
motion fails.
All right. DOA. Back to the drawing board.
Since we didn't have conversation on this topic, I do want to add in, there is an urgent need for reform. And my name was mentioned a few times in public comment, and I appreciate that. I want to be clear that I see a very important need to reform the historic district, and it needs to happen soon. There are homeowners that are really struggling in my neighborhood and across our city. And I think the right thing to do here is to remove the requirements that we don't, as a city, want to enforce, that we can't enforce. And those are the preservation standards that we get from the state and feds. And I know that that's not everybody's favorite answer, but I think it's the one that we can move forward with quickly, and it will have the most positive impact. Then we can work on what comes next. But in my mind, we need to stop the bleeding. I think we're really impacting homeowners negatively in our community. So I don't plan on dropping this issue. I'm really disappointed that we had to have this vote tonight, and I hope the community doesn't think that means that council is not aligned in our commitment to reforming this historic district. And I hope that the community doesn't think that this means that council won't be doing something on this.
Thank you, Dave. The comment that I would like to make is, I would like the community to understand this is not something that just happened in the month of September in 2021. This has been going on for years, where community has complained about going to HDC and having to go through what the rad makers have gone through on Marshall Street, trying to get what they want to do to their home approved from a group of 7 or 9 people, and that it's okay for someone but not okay for someone else. So this is not something, I heard a couple of comments where council don't jump into this. This is not something we're jumping into. This has been on the radar for 20, 30 years. And we've received this $200,000 over that amount of years. It's not like we got $200,000 this year to do this. So to say that we're jumping into it is a misstatement. We are not, and we will not let this go undone, like Dave said. We will keep on this to do something about it, because we do realize that there's a lot of people who are passionate about it, and there's people who can't afford to do anything about it. So we will keep on it.
Can I just real quickly say, Mayor Pro Tem, to that end, Parker was kind enough to set up a table out in the narthex. What's that called out there? Is it a narthex? Is that what we call that? That's a church thing, you know. Atrium, there we go. Sorry, that's my history poking through.
Lobby, reception area?
With applications for the HDC. So all of you passionate, wonderful people who care about our historic district can apply to be on the HDC and help carry this load with Councilmember Redding.
there are electronic versions of those board applications available at cityofallegan.org as well.
Could there be a second list for those who want to help the HDC with volunteer time? You know, and not necessarily serve, and
Can-
be on another commission?
They're all public meetings. I would just suggest coming to a public meeting, Paula.
Okay.
Yeah. Then that would help the commissioners know your passion and they can reach out to you. Sorry.
No, you're
Did I
fine.
speak out of turn?
No. Okay. The next item on the agenda is public comment. That is for anything that is not on the agenda, if anyone has anything to say.
Good evening. I just wanted to stop in and introduce myself. My name is Rochelle Smith, and I am running for state representative. That is an open seat as Mary Whiteford is term limited. A little bit about myself. I'm from Martin Township. My husband and I have 3 adopted boys, and we are partners in our family's second-generation dairy farm and grain elevator. So I know what it's like to run and operate a small business. Currently, I represent the Township of Martin as their clerk. Serving at the local level, I understand the importance of local government. If elected, I would do my best to protect the citizens that I represent from big government overreach and to uphold the conservative values of the people here in Allegan County. So I look forward to working with you and learning of any ways that I can help. And thank you for your time. Can I pass this to someone here and they pass it out?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda is a request from Allegan Heroes to utilize the Griswold Auditorium at a reduced rate. Parker, you have something on this?
Yes. So in your packet was included a letter from Kimberly Pullen, the organizer of the Allegan Heroes event. She is also here in the audience with us tonight. So if she has anything that she would like to add, she can come to the podium. Brief history on the Allegan Heroes event. First started in 2009 and has been held at the Griswold since, just minus 2 years, last year and another year that the event did not happen. They have been paying at the reduced nonprofit rate of 50% since 2017. Prior to that, there was an agreement with previous city staff that there was no payment at all. So yeah, if there's any other questions of council for staff or of Kimberly, she's here, and we can answer those as you see fit.
What would be the 50% rate?
I like that you expect us to remember
I don't
that
remember.
policy, like every
Yeah.
single time this
Yes,
comes.
I apologize for that. Ryan's been working with the organizers and getting all those rates together, so I'm going to rely on him in just a second as he pulls that up. But previous council members will recall, and I believe it may just be you two, Mackenzie and Payroll, that we had established at the Griswold 2 different fee structures, essentially. The standard one, and then all nonprofit organizations received a 50% discount.
Let's all look
He's
at
working on
Ryan.
No pressure. So, we didn't have a rental form filled out quite yet.
No, I haven't yet. I've not been in to see yet.
So I would guess it would be, they've got in the morning, afternoon, what else do you wanna, give us some information about it?
Just what's the frickin' dollars to rent the Griswold?
So our events that are planned for the day are a vendor show in the morning that'll run from 9 to 2, and then we also have a variety show planned in the evening that will be approximately from 6 to 8. And our rental time will include setup for both events and then a rehearsal the night before for the variety show.
And you want the banquet area, or the big area downstairs?
The banquet area for the vendor show, we would not need that in the evening.
Kim, do you remember what you paid the last
The
time?
last time, I believe we paid $600 in 2019.
Forgive me, don't you use the Griswold leading up to it, yes? Or am I thinking community?
We
I'm
used to
thinking
use it a
community
little
players.
more, but we've scaled back just to a
So
rehearsal the night before.
You need it for 2 nights?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so those total costs, the banquet room costs $125 an hour, and the auditorium costs $75 an hour.
So,
In the Merlin, the lounge.
The Mural Lounge will not be used, is that correct?
It is typically used during the show.
I saw on
To
the-
set up our, we also have a silent auction during the
The
entire
Marilla
day.
Lounge rate is $50 an hour.
25 with the use of the other two rooms.
Yes, 25 in combination with the other two.
This is still less time or less use of the Griswold than Mahan Park for Good Times at the Gazebo, which we gave away, we authorized for free, yes? So I'll make a motion that we allow Allegan Heroes to have the Griswold. I don't have, my computer is dead at this point. What the dates are that they need,
5th and 6th.
thank
November.
you, of November?
Yes.
At no charge, following in line with the previous approvals we've made.
Is that a passive aggressive?
That is very passive.
I'll support.
So to be clear, not reduced rate for
Free.
free. Okay.
Free dollars.
Yep. All right, it's moved and supported.
Do we have a discussion now?
Sure.
Is this open to the public or
Yes, it
public
was
welcome?
completely a public event, and actually for the variety show, we do not charge admission, it's by donation only.
Okay. That's usually one of my clarifications for nonprofit. If it's open to the public, it does change a bit for me that it's a community event that way, not just a private use of the auditorium.
Okay. So that is a motion,
Yep.
Rachel, that you made? Okay, all right.
I did.
Okay, we have a motion and a support on the floor. All in favor by saying aye.
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 All opposed, saying,
No,
Oh,
so it passes, motion passes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda, city boards, commissions, and area agencies. We have a Public Spaces Commission report, and I am going to ask Parker if he would like to touch on that Public Spaces meeting.
Yeah, I can do that.
I mean, it was pretty simple.
Yeah, the Public Spaces Commission met and held their strategic planning session this month. That included brainstorming, wish lists, ideas for what this commission would like to accomplish in the next fiscal year. This will be shared with the council at their January study session, or excuse me, strategic planning, thank you. So, yeah, we covered each of our city-owned parks, had everything written up here on our marker board wall, and everybody got to share thoughts and ideas and list the importance of those goals. That was in the full list of which was included in your agenda, so.
Thank you, Parker.
one question. Will we be assigning any value for those what the quote-unquote wish list of things to do for our strategic session so that we'll know what some estimated cost of the different items are for when we're developing our budget?
Yeah, we can definitely build that.
That's very, helpful to council so that then we can figure out a budget.
Absolutely, most definitely.
Okay, next item on the agenda is a report from the Planning Commission. It's October meeting. Roger, you have that?
Yes, we had a pretty short agenda. We reviewed and approved a site plan for an addition to Summit Labs up in the industrial park. And that was approved with some stipulations on the Public Works getting to approve their drainage. But that was passed, and then we discussed some more about the master plan, which is still an ongoing saga, and looking at, particularly looking for areas where we might do some additional housing, some residential areas, and we also kind of had a brief discussion about what to do, or what the potential uses for some of the areas where the schools, elementary schools are, that will no longer be elementary schools in 4 or 5 years. That was it.
Okay, thank you, Roger. Next on the agenda is 11B, Finance Department. 11B1, request to approve accounts payable and payroll. And I'll handle this. Accounts payable was in the amount of $264,176.66. Payroll in the amount of $108,056.04, for a total disbursement of $372,232.71. Could I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Support.
Thank you. Right? We have a motion and a support on the floor to approve accounts payable. All everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed, same sign. Motion passes. And next, we just have number 13, communication from city manager, council, and mayor. We'll start down there on the end. Ryan, Michaela, Parker.
Yes, Halloween is coming up. Residential trick-or-treating in the city of Allegan will be on Halloween, Sunday, October 31st, from 5:30 to 8 p.m. So if you're a homeowner and you want trick-or-treaters at your door, turn your porch light on. When you're out of candy or 8 o'clock hits, turn that porch light off. That's the signal. But that's it for me.
Tracy?
I would just like to add that I've got the audit drafts in, so the meeting to go over our audit for fiscal year 2021 will be coming up, and that was pretty successful this year, so I'm glad that's over with, of course. The other thing is we applied for the budget award, and we're one of 38 municipalities in Michigan that got it this year, so I was kind of happy about that. I would like to thank Doug for working on the water sewer ordinance. I know that's been a major project and a long time coming, one thing that both of us have wanted to do for quite a while. And then finally, I would just like to say I'm going to miss you, Rachel and Tracy, and I hope you guys enjoy your time away. Yeah. But that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Rachel? Doug swears. Okay, Doug, do you have anything?
I was just going to say thank you to
Oh, you can-
Tracy and Rachel also for your service. And it's been a pleasure working with you as a staff member to council.
Thank you.
Rachel?
Is it my turn?
Now I'll let you go.
Awesome.
Yeah, I hate to
yeah.
ask you twice, but.
No, and it won't, nothing terribly long here. Thank you to the community for allowing me to have this opportunity. I would say us, but she'll say the same thing, I'm sure. Thank you, staff,
I should have saved you guys till last.
fellow council members for all the good times and enduring the bad times. Also, a quick good luck to the future council members coming in, and then I think this is more important than anything I've set up here. Congratulations to the Allegan Middle School football team for their undefeated
Yeah.
season. I mean, that's quite an accomplishment for a young group of folks, so I just want to toss that out there as a congrats to them. Thank you, everyone.
I really don't have much more to say than Rachel did, but thank you to staff. You guys have really helped me a lot in understanding different things, always answer my questions. A great group of people that we have working for the city of Allegan. So I wish you all well. And my fellow council members, I'm still around, but I'm going to be out there. I can't wait. But I wish you guys all well, and I know you all will do fine.
Dave? you wanna-
Nothing from me, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Peter?
Just to thank Rachel and former Mayor Perigo for their service and the time that they served on committee and served on council. It's a lot of work, and I'm happy that they will have some time off and some extra Monday nights that they don't have to come in, but you'll be missed.
Roger?
Thanks to all of our members of the community that came out and gave up their Monday night to be here and voice their opinion. That's democracy in action. That's a good thing. We appreciate you taking time out to be here and letting us know what your thoughts are. And I want to say goodbye and thank you to our, well, you know, I'm never going to see you again. Glad to call you guys friends, and most of it's been fun. Not all of
I
it.
have to say, Roger, remember when you would sit out there and you'd get me to laugh when I was up here? I'm going to do that now to you.
The good old days.
Yes.
So both former mayors, and thank you for all your hard work and service. And we are really losing a huge amount of experience and knowledge with you leaving. So it's going to be hard. We're going to have to pick up the slack. But thanks for everything.
Okay, I have a couple of things too. Parker, downtown decor looks awesome.
Thank you. It was
Great
fun to put
job. You
together.
and that was very nice, very good job. And then, audience, I'd like to thank you for putting up with all my mistakes. This is my first time as doing this along with Parker, so we winged it, but we appreciate all your comments, sticking with us, and we'll do what we can for you. So thank you again. And last but not least, Rachel, I'm going to miss you. You're a wealth of knowledge, even though you like to put us in our place. But we would like you to enjoy your flowers. There was a card that came with that, so we will greatly miss you. It's been short-lived, but I think we've gained friendship along the way, so you will be greatly missed. And Tracy, same for you. You will greatly be missed. Between the two of you, you are a wealth of knowledge. And like Roger said, both mayors in the past and a lot of knowledge. So flowers and a card for you as well. So enjoy, and it's been fun. I can't say it's been real, but it's been fun. So, okay, so, all right. With that being said, if there's nothing else, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 7:52.